Thanks for listening and subscribing to the Clive Barker Podcast, the only podcast dedicated to the imagination of Clive Barker. You can find our show notes for this and every episode at www.clivebarkercast.com. In this episode, 215, Rob Ridenauer joins Jose and I to talk about Nightbreed and Candyman news. Our copies of The Painter, The Creature, and The Father of Lies have arrived, and there's even some late breaking news at the end of that Rob and I had to record an hour later. This episode is sponsored by Don Bertram's Celebrate Imagination. Don Bertram's Celebrate Imagination shop is dedicated to benefiting the Arts and Medicine program at Texas Children's Cancer Center. Up to 50% of the proceeds will support the program where artist Don Bertram volunteers monthly. Please join us in donating to the program at Texas Children's Cancer Center. There's a link in the show notes and on the main website at clivebarkercast.com that will take you where you need to go to get one of his prints, art books, or books to help out this wonderful program. Well, welcome. This is episode 215 of the Clive Barker Podcast. I'm Ryan.
I'm Jose.
Hey guys, this is Rob. Hope everybody's doing well.
Yeah. I had to get up at 5:30 to do this.
I keep forgetting you're like 4 hours behind me.
Yeah.
I'm still waking up here too, but
I got 2 hours behind me.
That's right. I'm
the only one that it feels like I'm a little bit more awake.
Yep, you're over there in beautiful Charlotte, North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
So there's some interesting news that came out this week, right, Ryan?
Yeah. So the biggest one, I guess we're doing our biggest story first here, but a company called ESC, which is a French movie production company or Blu-ray, company, announced that they were going to be doing a Nightbreed, and not only did they just basically announced it with a mock-up photo, and the photo shows the three versions, right? The theatrical and the director's cut and the Cabal cut.
Right. So they call it cinema, director's cut, and the Cabal cut. Mm-hmm. So it was interesting when this came out because they were using the cover art was the poster that Vance Kelly did for Nightbreed when the Occupy Minion movement was going on, and there was that screening at the Crest at Westwood, and they we got Vance Kelly in touch with the Clive Barker people, and they made a limited run of his poster, and somehow ESC, the French publisher, got a hold of that art and used it for the cover, and so they call it Cabal, and then in parenthesis Nightbreed, because that's the name of the movie in France. It's Cabal.
And Vance Kelly went on their site and he's like, that's my artwork. Nobody asked me about that.
Yeah. So that was surprising. And I was like, how is this coming out? Because we knew that the Cabal cut had only come out from Seraphin on Blu-ray that we did the commentary track for. But now it seems like they were going to release this in France, and nobody knew anything about it. And that's like, we were trying to reach out to people, right? And we got some messages that, I'm not sure what deal they have, but, I don't know anything about it. And so we were like confused about it, but it seems like they're still in talks, and they might have jumped the gun a little bit when they posted that mock-up, but it seems like it's going to happen. So for all you European fans out there, you're probably going to be able to get the Cabal cut in your zone.
And according to Russell Charrington, who was the restoration director of the Cabal cut of Nightbreed, they are one of several companies worldwide that's negotiating for rights to do an international version of Nightbreed for their region.
So that is interesting. He said that he made a statement about the worldwide release of the Cabal cut. So Russell was the producer of the Cabal cut. He says, right now we're talking with distributors on UK, France, Spain, and Japan about a release of Nightbreed. No deal has been signed, so nothing is confirmed just yet. When it is, we will inform you first. So you're talking to us. If any other company wishes to enter into talks to release the Cabal cut of Nightbreed, we are ready to talk to you. The version we have is pretty special, and you will all be amazed with the film when it's on Blu-ray. So interesting that there's new work on a different Cabal cut. So it
Yeah.
seems like they keep tweaking that movie, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this would be kind of the 9th version, I think, of the Cabal cut that's existed.
Wow, God.
Yeah, the first 7, of course, were the ones that were screened at film festivals to promote Nightbreed, and the fact that the footage had been found, or the work print footage at that time it had been found. And then 8 was the 2017 limited release, and this would be the 9th version that's being worked on right now.
Yeah. And it seems like they keep trying to reduce the amount of VHS footage or work print footage that's used on it, so we get more clarity, more scenes, shots that we've never seen before. Because when they found that box of elements for Nightbreed before they did the director's cut, they found a lot of footage that didn't make it into the director's cut.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons for that was because there was no sound elements for some of those scenes, and some of them were MOS, which I think is motor-only shots.
Yeah.
And there were some audio elements, but it seems like from what we were told back then, they wanted, how much was it? Like $25,000 or $10,000 or something like that to restore the audio elements. And
Oh wow.
apparently there was no budget for that. That's why they limited themselves to work print audio.
I thought he had said that it would just take too long and cost too many man hours to try to sort through all that and digitize it. I mean, that was
Right.
that was what was his name from Shout Factory?
What's his name?
Cliff McMillan.
They
Right.
yeah, you're right. They just didn't have enough time because they were set on a release date, weren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For the director's cut.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's one of the reasons why even after the director's cut, we saw the Cabal cut come out again as a Blu-ray, and now we're seeing another version of it. It's just because there's people out there dedicated to trying to rescue this movie and make the best version of it, the one with the kitchen sink, but the best quality ever. So these people have been working tirelessly, restoring, color correcting work print footage, trying to make, things look good, trying to work on, getting shots that were not put in the director's cut, trying to see if they can improve the audio, improve the scoring. And they've just been working tirelessly on this Cabal cut. And that's why some people are like, well, I'm feeling a little cheated because we were told that was going to be the only release of the Cabal cut, and we paid for the limited version, and now there's going to be another one.
Yes.
But it's like, but this is a different version. It's not the same. The one that came out from Seraphin is still going to be super rare.
And it was a region-free release that was, sold in the United States, and it was limited to only 1,000 copies. Originally, only 250, and then they were given permission to sell their entire production run that they had, which they thought they were just going to have to sit on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what do you think of the new Cabal Cut Twitter account that's been posting all these pictures, Rob?
Oh, I'm loving it. Really loving it. Speaking of tweaking the images and making them look better, the details on some of these things look amazing. Whoever's working on it's doing a great job of wanting me to buy another version of the Cabal cut. Direct Nightbreed for sure.
I think that they're using some of that footage that was found but didn't have any sound. So they're probably trying to tweak that as much as they can to see if there's any way that they can put some music or sound effects over it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure about making new dialogue, because we know what happened when they tried doing that with Rachel, the character of Rachel in Nightbreed. She ends up having 3 different sounding voices throughout the movie.
Strange.
Yeah, it's a little strange.
Yeah.
But this Cabal Cut Twitter account that came out, it's called NB Cabal Cut on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I was telling you guys before we started recording that in some ways, some of these photos look like someone grabbed you by the hand and said, hey, you like Nightbreed? Come with us. I'm going to take you on a tour behind the scenes, and you're going to see how we made the movie and all that. Because you see people like Doug Bradley as Lylesburg, like laughing at some joke that he was told on set. You have some guy set dressing the Peloquin and Cabal scene that never got included, putting snakes over Peloquin. You see a picture of Boone like shrugging his shoulders, going like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Even minor characters. Yeah, even minor characters like Scorch is seen on set wearing a shirt,
Mhm.
before he took it off for the movie. And it's just amazing. All these pictures that they're putting up, they really give you a different dimension, a different way of looking at the movie, right?
It was also showing like a composite shot of, I guess, Decker running away from Boone, but they showed like a
Hmm.
shot of Decker running. It's like it looks like he's on obviously on a back lot. Then
Yeah, Pinewood.
they add in the matte painting. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, yeah. You got
How that
Deckard
process
running.
works.
You got Toledo, Babette's father. There's a picture here where you can see his entire body, and I think this was played by Stuart Conran, though I'm not sure. I may be saying something wrong, but there was one effects artist that actually had to don the werewolf makeup, and he's the guy that we see painting the Wall of Prophecy, and so there's lots of stuff to see here. So this account is apparently run by the people who are working on the new Cabal cut. So
Yeah.
good luck to that, and I'm looking forward to this new version.
Well, and going back really quick to this ESC release, when that was first announced, it was confusing, right? A lot of people were thinking maybe this is a bootleg, and so just to just to let people know, they aren't a boot. They're a legitimate company. They have released the Hellraiser trilogy in France, and they just also announced Candyman. So they're not a bootleg company, but they may have, like you said, just jumped the gun.
Yeah, so cool. I mean, some people weren't happy with the Hellraiser trilogy. I've got some messages on Twitter from people saying, ESC, they're okay. Someone from France was telling me sometimes, that people don't like the transfers that they use for certain editions. Like the Hellraiser one had some transfers that were used that were less than excellent. I think one of them was cut instead of uncut. But it's whatever. It's
Yeah.
these movies keep coming out and keep coming out in beautiful editions. This one's going to be a particularly interesting one. It's going to have 3 different versions of the movie, and I feel like this is something that Nightbreed deserves. It deserves to have a proper edition with as many bells and whistles as you can put in it.
Yeah, and that Twitter account, right? The Cabal Cut Twitter was at CB, or what is it? At NB
NB Cabal Cut.
NB
Yeah.
Cabal Cut. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So, speaking of Candyman, the Candyman vinyl soundtrack is back in stock, right?
Well,
The one.
just wanted to say really quick, today is the
Yeah.
29th anniversary of Nightbreed. As we're recording
Yay!
this, 2/16/19 is the yep. Happy 29th anniversary, Nightbreed.
Wow, 29 years. That's pretty impressive. It feels like it was just yesterday that I was, going to buy the Nightbreed Chronicles and watching the movie and
Yeah.
reading the Nightbreed making of the film book and wondering what the hell happened to this movie.
Yeah.
Finally, like 25 years later or 23 years later, it finally came out, and that was great being a part of pushing for that. Everyone at Occupy Mid did a great job.
And
So happy birthday.
and Jose, you have an exhaustive article on the history of Nightbreed that you did on the 27th anniversary, so 2 years ago today.
Yeah, that's right. We should probably put that on the show notes so people can go and see the history of what it took to get that movie out.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
definitely. I'll add that.
And that Twitter account is usually updated daily, so with multiple posts, so just keep your eye on the different posts that come up.
Yeah, yeah.
Do it hourly or whatever, but they usually do a good job of keeping it, coming up with new images.
Yeah, and we just helped them out with some more footage that we had. So let's see if that makes a big difference in the end result. So it's going to be fun. And yeah, like I was saying, so ESC also released Candyman, right? It's going to release Candyman. And so that's going to be interesting now that all these new transfers have been put out by Arrow and Shout Factory. I guess they're going to start licensing those transfers and going to use those for other releases around the world. But if you like Philip Glass and you like the Candyman soundtrack, so Rob, you made an article that Light in the Attic Records is.
Brought that edition that I got for Christmas. It was a limited edition release. I think it was released. I can't remember the original release date for it, but it's the same edition, but they've had some copies that came back in stock, and I'm not sure how many came back in stock. The site didn't say, so I would assume, I'm not sure if it's limited or what, but I'd order a copy or reserve a copy today as fast as possible, because you never know.
Yeah. And so they're shipping out these new orders on March 29. So that's when they ship. Go to their lightintheattic.net and check out their releases. You'll find a form there to order more copies of this. And Rob, you wrote on your article here that the limited vinyl edition comes with some interesting liner notes from Tony Todd, Ted Raimi, Xander Berkeley, composer Philip Glass, director Bernard Rose, and of course Clive Barker himself. They all offer their own insightful views about working on the film. So that sounds like a neat edition. I'm probably going to take a look at it myself and see if I can pre-order it.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. The only thing I wish I would have gotten when they first released this, they don't release the honeycomb vinyl. The way the record would look, it looks like a bee. I wish I could have gotten that, but that's out. I guess you can't get that anymore.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that would have been amazing. Looks like yellow and black.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hopefully they'll put they also released the second soundtrack to the second film. Hopefully they'll put that back out again, because that's another one to get.
Yeah, they should. You know what they should do? They should release this in a beeswax cylinder soundtrack. Now that would be something. Hey, maybe we can get the Century Guild to release it, because they did like a wax cylinder thing once before on Kickstarter. So
and he tried to convince us that he made it out of earwax.
That's funny. That's funny. No, it was just a joke.
Yeah.
So, Candyman vinyl soundtrack, Light in the Attic. Go check it out.
And speaking of Clive Barker-related soundtracks, Chris Velasco has a new website. So you might remember we interviewed Chris Velasco and that he did the Clive Barker's Jericho score, which is huge to us, but to everybody else, I mean, he is a prolific video game scorer, and he's done huge amounts of games that most everybody's heard of, like God of War, and he just did Darksiders 3 and
Mass Effect.
And I think Fortnite I've never seen it or played it, but I hear that's a huge deal, and he does the score for that. Yeah,
and Borderlands, Mass Effect, Overwatch, which is another one of those kind of, is it a battle royale kind of game, Overwatch? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I didn't know he did the Resident Evil, the Biohazard score.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was some good creepy music in that.
So he was at episode 127 of our podcast, and now you can check out his site over at chrisvelasco.com/#listen.
And he was also in our YouTube Nightbreed review of Clive Barker's Undying.
That's right. Yeah. So go check it out. He's got lots of things that you can listen to on his website, and you can see how much of a prolific composer he's been.
He also did music for the Madefire Books of Blood motion comic. And it's not released, but he did music for the follow up to that, which was the Midnight Meat Train, and I really wish that people could hear that.
Me too. Yeah. Do you know if they animated anything for that? If there's anything at all that was made?
Yes, I think it was finished.
Oh my God, that's such a waste that it's not going to show up. I hope it makes its way to Madefire at some point.
Yeah, that would be good. I wonder if motion comics were just a trend that didn't take off.
Yeah, I mean, what was the first motion comic you guys ever heard of? Mine was probably Watchmen.
Books of Blood. It wasn't.
You're talking about the DVD they released of that?
Yeah. I remember seeing motion comics. I think the first time I saw it was Watchmen. Then I saw something about Marvel motion comics, and Yeah, so that seemed like an interesting idea at the time, in the way that they animated the artwork straight out of the page, and
Yeah.
but it's a little limited, of course. And then whenever they did voices for the Watchmen comic, it's always the same guy making both male and female voices. So
It didn't really
Yeah.
work.
yeah, but it was an interesting concept. I'm not sure it's going to take off ever, but I thought it was interesting to see art that you're used to seeing on the page, like static, being animated. I'm sure it's a very complicated, very time-consuming process, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was too bad because I was hoping that would get its entire run, and they stopped after the first one.
So I got something interesting in the mail the other day.
Yeah.
Some years ago, I'm not sure exactly when it was first published, but there was the book Shadows in Eden, right? I mean, it's one of those books that if you were a Clive Barker fan, you were like marveled at discovering that there was this big hardcover book called Shadows in Eden, full of like interviews and sketches and pictures about Clive Barker's work and interviews and all the nonfiction stuff collected in one big book by Stephen Jones. So years and years later, Phil and Sarah Stokes of the Clive Barker Archive made another edition of collected nonfiction from Clive Barker. And that was called The Painter, the Creature, and the Father of Lies. So it came out first as a hardback, right?
Yeah.
Hardcover edition. And now finally, they brought it back as a paperback. And I'm holding it right here. So I got this the other day from Royal Mail. From England, and it came inside with a couple of postcards. One of them says, "Many thanks, Jose. All best wishes as always, Phil and Sarah."
That's what mine says too. Many thanks, Ryan. All best wishes, PNS.
Yeah, and so this is a great book. I mean, if you haven't had a chance to get the hardcover, or even if you did get the hardcover, I mean, this paperback is an excellent way of having this to go, just grab it, put it in your book bag, and you're good to go. And you got some stuff to read on your way to work.
And the first 500 copies are signed by Clive Barker. And I'm sure that you got a lower number than mine because I ordered mine later. Mine's 208. So what that tells me is that if you still want to get this autographed, I think you have time. I mean, I would go do it.
Yeah, mine was 118. And I got it a few days ago. So they have the first 300 or 500? Was it 500?
The first 500, yeah. So, I mean, if I'm 208 and I just got mine like a couple of days ago, then, then you have time. If there's 300 copies left, there were 100 copies between you and I, right? And I think I got mine a week later than you did.
Yeah, it's optimistic, but it seems to me more like 100 copies are being sold every day. So if it's 500, then people have to rush and see if they can get a copy of it signed before they run out. I believe that the Clive Barker Archive says that once the signed copies are gone, that they will take out the signed description on their Clive Barker Archive website. So if you go there and it still says signed, you got a good chance of still getting one signed by Clive Barker himself. So go grab it.
Yeah. Exciting.
So I'm just want to make sure there. So this is gonna stay in print, right? It's not gonna go out of print. That's what I'm gathering. The first 500 copies are just signed. Is all that. If you don't get that, it's just
Then the next ones won't be signed, and I think it'll stay available, but because they didn't announce a limited number like they have with other books, like the biography volumes.
Yeah.
Those had a limited number, like 250 copies each, I think.
Yeah.
Right. So all of the Clive Barker Archive releases usually are pretty limited in scope. I mean, the Imaginer books, they don't last forever. I mean, some of them are already sold out. The Memory, Prophecy, and Fantasy books, they were made like how many? Like 400 books a piece or something?
I thought it was like 250, but
or 250? Yeah. My guess is, if I have to speculate, and this is totally me, I would say they probably made like maybe 2,000 copies of this book. I would say that's a good run. I'm not sure. I don't have any numbers, so I'm just making it up. So if the first 500 are signed, I would say probably they got maybe like 1,000 or 2,000. Yeah. So that's my guess. So but this sort of thing, since it's not a fiction book by Clive Barker, it's nonfiction, so it's really more for people who are really interested in reading all these like introductions to books, openings, and introduction
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, essays. Like there's even one here for Hellblazer Volume 2. It's like a one-page article that Clive Barker wrote for Hellblazer, the Constantine comics. So that's always good stuff to read this, because sometimes Clive explains certain things about his work or about what you're about to read when it was an introduction to something. So it always is interesting to see what he comes up with and the stuff that he explains. And so it's really good, and it's very illustrated on the inside. Like there's lots of, every single article almost has a particular ink drawing by Clive Barker. So that's another interesting thing to look at. And so very nice book. If you want to have nonfiction by Clive Barker ready on the go on your way to work, just grab a copy, and you'll be well accompanied on your train or bus ride or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of a neat book to just kind of read, a little bit here and there, since these are short essays and introductions, like you said.
Yeah. So looking forward to revisiting it.
And speaking of anniversaries, 2 days ago was the 1 year anniversary of Hellraiser Judgment. It feels like it just came out, but now it's been a year.
I totally forgot that was released on Valentine's Day. I didn't realize.
Yeah, I didn't think of that either. I just remember being so impatient for it because, it took so long for it to come out.
I think I got my copy a few days early from Valentine's Day, if I remember correctly, because I saw one of them.
Yeah, there was some weird thing with Amazon where they just.
Yeah, that's right. I did too.
You click pre-order, and then all of a sudden it just showed up like they didn't give a rip about the release date.
Yeah, probably as soon as they had it, it's like, let's ship it out. So that was fun. Watching Hellraiser Judgment the first time was interesting. Definitely was better than I expected. And, to this day, I've kind of adopted it as like, yeah, that's one of the good Hellraiser movies, I guess. I don't have much to point to it apart from maybe the fact that the secondary story of the murder mystery cop thing is a little bland. But I was happy with it after seeing what happened to, the not the Hell World, because that's bad enough as it is, but the other one that
Revelations.
The guys that go to Tijuana. Yeah. Oh God, I'm sorry, but that movie was just horrible.
Yeah. So and they had similar budgets too, so it just
they did.
I guess the director and the casting can make a huge difference.
Yeah. So thanks, Paul T. Taylor. You gave a good rendition of the Hell Priest, and Gary Tunnicliffe did a good job.
Yeah, he did.
So on the site, we did a commentary for Dark Ditties Presents Mrs. Wiltshire. So check that out if you haven't already. If you're subscribed, I'm sure that you either heard it or you put it off until you got to watch that first. If you have Amazon Prime membership, those are free, so go check them out. And Tuesday Tunes. Oh yeah, so somebody in the Raul, I think in the Discord chat said, "Hey, did you know about this one?" And he sent a music video or like a YouTube clip of a song by Entomed called Hellraiser, and it's instrumental and it has a lot of audio clips from Hellraiser.
Oh, that's always fun.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah. And and we had some discussion, actually just two comments on our blog about the Cabal cut or the new Nightbreed ESC potential release. So Josh says, I'm feeling particularly duped in regard to the Cabal Cut Blu-ray that had been offered before. I believe it was stated that the release was far more limited than 1,000 mentioned here, which explains the several times there were offers of buying returned items or just found a bunch more orders now. Way too Charles Band for my taste, and we were certainly led to believe that it would be the only release of this version. Yeah. I wouldn't have shelled out $250 for it, knowing there was even a possibility it would get a general release. I think this sucks. I think we were lied to and taken advantage of. Not cool. So there's a lot of sort of wrong thinking there in this. So I think, first of all, they had been trying to negotiate international release of that since before the director's cut came out in the United States.
Right.
And that took, think that was 5 years ago, right? When that came out. And even back then, Shout Factory was not interested in the Cabal cut. So,
right.
Somebody at Seraphim who was a fan of the Cabal cut said, hey, I still like this. I wish it would have been in there. And he took it upon himself to, make another version of the Cabal cut and get it released as sort of a homebrew Seraphim release.
Yeah, with Russell, and that's when we got approached to record a commentary track, and Russell and Jimmy Johnson, who originally edited 6-7 versions of the Cabal cut, they also made a commentary track for that, and then it was put out by Seraphim under Mark Miller and Clive Barker.
And the other thing about the number of them released, so they were worried because there was all they were still selling the director's cut, so they went to Morgan Creek and they said, can we do a very limited release of this, just 250 copies? And surprisingly, Morgan Creek said, yeah, sure, go ahead. And so they went to the Blu-ray manufacturer and they said, we want to make 250 copies of this Blu-ray. And they said, no, minimum order is 1,000.
Right.
So they made 200. They were originally going to do 250 deluxe sets that cost $250 and have extra stuff with them. And you and I talked to them and said, that $250 is really steep. There should be copies that are affordable that everybody can buy. So they said okay, and they made $50 standard editions. Only 50 of them, because they had to break even. They had to make 200 of the deluxe ones, and then they made 50 of the standard editions. And and then they also had another 750 copies of this Blu-ray because the manufacturer, that was the minimum order. And they went back to Morgan Creek and they said, hey, we have all these copies. Can we sell these too? And Morgan Creek said, yeah, go ahead.
Right. And that's why some other non-special editions came out, and a lot of people were happy to be able to snatch a copy of that for like $50 or something. So, and this is going to be different. I think that a good response to Josh on our blog was from Mark Danaker. He said, I'll be both happy and annoyed if a general release comes about. However, I know that no one lied to us and that this doesn't mean a U.S. release is coming. We all felt this was a vaulted thing and we had one chance to seize a copy. Maybe no one had any idea there would be, but I think it's understandable that people are a little annoyed with the idea. Okay, so again, something to unpack here is that this is going to be a new version. This is something that people are still working on, and they want to make an even better version than the one that came out before. I hope that, I do hope that this is going to be the definitive Cabal Cut version, but I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm saying this without any sort of knowledge, but if at some point in the future, someone working with Clive Barker decides to say, you know what, let's try to talk to the Morgan Creek and see if we can restore these audio elements and see if we can get sound to most of this footage that we have and make another version of the Cabal Cut. So I wouldn't say that is out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
If that ever happens, because now that they found the stuff, they found the footage, and there was they said 600 boxes of stuff.
Yeah.
And we know that there is at least 20-something hours of footage that's been out of that, maybe like half an hour of footage, has been used. Other stuff is just repeat shots. Other stuff is just effects shots or elements. But there's a lot of stuff in there that was recorded, but there's just no sound to it. And I wouldn't be surprised if in the future, if the sound gets restored, that someone would take it upon themselves to work on something different. But that's just me.
And Nightbreed is a sort of a choose your own adventure when you're editing it, because there are different paths, right? You can have Joyce get killed, or you can have Joyce just get his arm sliced. And you can have Narcisse get killed or not get killed. You can have Laurie make the psychic connection with Babette, or you could not follow that.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, there's nothing else for me to say about this. It's really like there's a new version that people are still working on as we speak. It's not even complete yet, but it is going to be licensed to certain companies, and it's probably going to get released around Europe. I don't know if it's going to be limited to that region, or if it's going to be able to, people in America are going to be able to watch it in their Blu-ray players. In any case, I think this is another cinematic, rarity that's going to come out. And I mean, there's still services out there that are streaming the theatrical cut, so it's not like the director's cut replaced that as far as we thought it was going to happen. And there's still people out there who probably don't even know that there is a director's cut or a Cabal cut of Nightbreed. I'm sure there are. I mean, there's people out there who still show up and say, hey, what's this about the director's cut? Hey, I just found out about Occupy Mini, this is great. So where can I get it? Oh, okay. People go like, you can go on Amazon and get the director's cut. But Ryan, you came up with an interesting article some time ago. It's called All the Versions of Nightbreed Explained. Put a link on it for the show notes. Mm-hmm. And if people go read that article that you made, I think you were very, very exhausting in explaining all the different versions, and so that's a good start.
And once these things come out, these international releases, I'll just update that one too. So
sure, or you can make a new one. Yeah.
And
so what's?
Go ahead.
I was just going to say. So what's coming up next?
So we are going to be next week doing a commentary track for the third Dark Ditties Presents Finders Keepers, which is cool. And we're lining up the writers and directors Gary Smart and Neil Morris to join us. And so we will be a few hours late releasing that episode because they'll be just getting back from shooting their fourth episode.
Yay, that's exciting. So we might be able to snatch a little bit of a sneak peek about what's going on for the next episode. Yeah, I think it's going to be the Witching Hour.
Yeah, the Witching Hour, right. Yeah, so very exciting, and I think that if you're out there and you're on the fence or haven't watched these, please watch the Dark Ditties episodes. You'll see familiar faces. You'll see Simon Bamford is the returning star who's been in all four of them. When we know him as Onaka in Nightbreed, Butterball in Hellraiser, and big friend of the show. And we can't support these Dark Ditties enough.
Yeah. It's going to be really, really exciting and very, very interesting to be able to make the commentary track with them. Having Gary on the Mrs. Wiltshire commentary track was a lot of fun.
It was.
And we may be able to get Laurie Markle-Bichet to join us again. So that will be another special appearance in our commentary track. Yeah,
looking forward to that. We're going to have some more news episodes, of course. The Duels of Blood are going to come back. So, and this time it's going to be about Nightbreed. So last year we did Hellraiser and all Cenobites, and this time it's going to be all Nightbreed. And
it's going to be a family matter. Yeah.
The tribes of the moon embrace you.
Yeah, and they're going to kick each other's ass. So we'll see who makes it to the end. My money's on Peliquin, so I don't know. We'll see.
He's the pinhead of Nightbreed, so on the one hand, he's the most popular, but on the other hand, people might want to go for the deep cuts.
Yeah.
Maybe Mexico is going to be the winner.
Yes,
who knows?
And of course, we're going to have a huge contingent of Simon Bamford fans.
Who do you think's going to win, Rob?
What, for Duels of Blood?
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm gonna say it's between Pelican, Shunasasi, or Onaka.
That's a good prediction there. Yeah.
Those are the three I'm gonna pick.
Yep. Yeah. I think those are going to be making it to the final couple of rounds. Yeah, for sure.
I have a hard time picking one in just that group of breed. All the breeds are pretty badass, and just those are the three I really, think.
I'm going to start my campaign for the underdog Lylesburg. I know people don't like him, and he's kind of a useless character. And when Midian gets attacked, but you know what? I like him.
Yeah, he's cool.
Yeah, and I like him now that his voice is restored. Right, we get to hear him with Doug Bradley's voice.
That's right. And we're also going to start reading Abarat, so we can start planning out the discussion episodes of Abarat. So that's going to be interesting for 2019.
Yeah. Just in about a month or so, maybe 3 weeks, we'll be talking about Abarat. So I'm going to bring my copy upstairs now after this episode. So
that sounds good.
I'll be officially starting to read it because I don't want to get us behind.
Okay. And thanks, Rob, for being with us again in this episode.
Thanks for having me, like always.
Yeah. It's always great having you here.
This is kind of late breaking because we've already finished recording the podcast, right? And Rob, you just discovered that you got a notice from your brother about this that Nika has released a Nightbreed figure, or they're showing it off at a toy fair, right?
Oh yeah, this year's toy fair convention, and it looks really good. NECA is one of the best toy companies out there for collectibles. If you're a big, if you want like a figure of like, let's say, something really rare, something obscure, like I guess Dr. Decker or something like that, they would put that out.
I have their Sheen Godzilla.
Oh yeah, they're putting. I actually saw some more Godzilla stuff they're putting out for the new movie that's coming out. So you ought to check that out.
Oh yeah, definitely. I love their figures. Actually, now that I have that, it's like I wish that they were allowed to make the other monsters, but they can't because of contracts license stuff. So they can only make different versions of Godzilla, but they can't make the other monsters.
Oh, that's a bummer. Because there's so many other cool monsters in that, franchise.
Yeah, after 30 movies. But yeah, so Dr. Decker will be coming out. That's cool.
Third quarter of 2019, it says.
I hope that if they can do that, they can do
more
actual breed. Pelican and stuff like that. That would be great.
And Cabal and Shunasasi.
Yeah.
There's a whole. I was like, putting my post. There's a whole. That toy line could go on forever if you really wanted to. There's so many monsters in that film.
Yeah. Right now, we are at 57 out of 64 for setting up the new Duels of Blood March Madness style tournament. So 57, and that's only Nightbreed.
Yeah.
Not even the human characters, just the breed.
Yeah, I'd buy the human characters too. I'd like to have the group that
the Sons of the Free.
Yeah, Sons of the Free. I'd love to have those too.
Mm-hmm.
Give them all. Just give them to them all. Do them all.
Kane with his garrote.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'd love that, dude. And Philip, comes with a suitcase of I was looking at his picture. It comes with a suitcase of knives. So
yeah. That's kind of cool. So that must flip open and it's full of knives.
I wish it would have been kind of cool to have like a removable head, to have like maybe just David Cronenberg, the actual human face.
I wonder, do you think the mask can come off, or is that just the head?
It doesn't look like in that picture. It looks like it's a pretty, made to fit around it's just one head.
Yeah. So, that's cool. Yeah, I'll probably get that when it comes out.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. I hope, and I hope there's more. And this podcast, having no beginning, will have no end. You can find the show notes for this episode and join the discussion over at www.clivebarkercast.com, where we have news, features, reviews, and links to all the ways you can connect with us. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts and every other place you can find podcasts. Clive Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial, podcast, and news blog that is not affiliated with or under contract by Clive Barker or Seraphim Inc. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans.
Thanks for listening.